So apparently this game is woke. Maybe woke games aren't that bad, guys. Maybe woke games aren't that bad. In this video, I want to address a topic that I actually find quite concerning, that do actually see the crazy loonies succeeding with topic to some extent. So I'll also explain how to counter-argue them later in the video. But the topic I'm talking about, of course, is that the crazies now are pretending, right? They're pretending that games like FF7, for example, is woke, where it isn't woke. This game is not woke at all, but they like to pretend it is, right? Because then they can say it's a win for them. The reason they're doing it, I think particularly this year, is probably because of all the failures, right? You know, Dustborn, Concord, Star Wars Outlaw, etc. This game has failed so massively, right? So now they're in overdrive, pretending that these games are also woke now, so they can claim them as wins, right? And this, of course, is nothing new per se. I've seen it for years, but I think that currently we actually see it a lot, especially the last few months now. And that's why I made the video, guys. I hope you guys subscribe, like button, share the video, whatever. This is actually, I think, a concerning topic, and I say it's immediately why, because common issue I see, of course, is that when these people on the Twitter and Reddit or whatever, when they're trying, right, to, for example, say that this game is woke, they will say like, FF7 is a great game and it's woke, ergo go woke or woke is fake, right? And a lot of people, honestly, unfortunately, maybe even you watch the video, right, fall for that. And instead of them arguing on what is actually woke or not woke or whatever, right, people will argue and say that, well, some games can be woke or good, or no, I hate this game, or whatever, right? That's probably the most common thing, is that people will say, well, I don't think the game is good anyway, I don't like role-playing games, you know what I mean? But that is not the actual topic you should discuss, right? Because they're lying to you. By doing that, you're succeeding the point already, that you're basically agreeing with them then that this game is woke or not, right? But anyway, I'm gonna go over now several different points of, of these examples. First of all, what is actually a woke game, right? Can woke games succeed, and so on. And then we go into different examples of it, and I will show you mostly from this year then, and also a little bit from last year. But they have been doing this for like the last 20 years, I guess. But I think that primarily we focus on the current year, right? Now, first point that I want to address immediately, guys. I think it's important to think about this point honestly, right? And this is also very important, I think, to have in your mind, right, when the crazies are trying to pretend that someone isn't vocal, what is a vocal, whatever, so on, right? And there's an actual contextual thing here, very important. Vocal games can actually be good, right? Okay, we have to first realize that, right, and live in that reality. And this is where I feel, at least, that I am quite different than most like YouTubers or whatever, or most grifters, right? Because I don't agree at all, right, with these typical like alt-right grifters, right, going, oh, everything in woke is terrible and all sucks, whatever. I don't agree with that at all, okay? You can absolutely, objectively, make a game that is both woke and a good game, right? I guess in a game standpoint, you could have great gameplay, right? Amazing, the greatest like strategy of all time. Sure, every character is this and that or whatever, but if it had the greatest gameplay of all time in that genre, you probably would still play it, right? So yes, you can actually, in theory at least, make a good game and also have it woke at the same time. Now, in reality, that basically never ever happens, of course, but I think you have to remember that can be done. I think we have to use, in the video here, we're gonna assume, right, that I already said woke games can be good, and the argument is more that these games aren't woke to begin with, right, Come to see something that's more important here, right? But important to remember. Secondly, and I bring it up immediately, guys, before we get into the major points, but I want to say it immediately, is that the reason, of course, that most games fails, right? We've seen this with the Ubisoft leaks in the recent months and previous stuff, like Concord with example 2. The reason woke games fail isn't because woke as a team or whatever in a game, having like whatever trans and so on, so on. That stuff isn't actually that makes the games bad. It is the actual having to work with these people, right, that makes the game bad, right? Concord, the whole, you have to call me professor. I have worked in the game industry for about like 15 or so years, and I have actually had experience at almost exactly that thing where I had a co-worker when this person had this like ridiculous, you have to call me this thing, and it's like, but you aren't a professor. You don't have a master's degree. You barely have a bachelor's degree. Like you have no academic paper. It's ridiculous, right? And those people are basically impossible to work with, right? That's the real reason, honestly, I think very clearly why, DEI and Vogue Games fails. It's of course because, again, they're terrible, incompetent people that also want that, right? And working with it. And I saw one of these Ubisoft leak videos, and I fully agree, in my own experience as well, in the game industry, with the biggest issue perhaps isn't just that these people are very incompetent, and so on, but it's also hard to argue with them, right? Because you have an incompetent person, they're clearly hired because of, forced diversity or whatever, and then you have them at the office, and they do, let's say, coding. So they do terrible code, objectively terrible code, some buggy, it just doesn't work in the game, right? And if you try to tell them that, they will always go with like, oh, you said that because I'm a woman or because I'm black or whatever. I worked with that woman, they literally said thing, you want to say that my code is bad because I am black. And I was like, but you aren't even black. So she wasn't even black. Actually, literally not a black woman, but she was a woman though. But she would be like, you say because I'm black. I'm like, you're not black though. It's like, but I had a point, right? They unfortunately, these people, we try to kind of, never take any criticism, right? They hard to work with. You can't alter the stuff, right? You have to move around on eggshells. So that is the main reason, I have to say, why woke games fail, right? But anyway, these two main things that you guys have to remember, right? That woke games can be good, and also, like I said, woke games are actually usually failing because of all the incompetence of the developers, right? On the actual woke studios. Now, let's go into some of the more examples then of how they're trying to pretend that these games are woke while they actually aren't. So what we have seen in recent months is people saying that, oh, this game sold 1 million copies, so it didn't go broke or whatever. So the first thing I want to say here is just how, even if we go into the game examples, but you saying that a game sold 1 million copies isn't really relevant, right? I see it mostly being used with metaphor ReFantazio. So this game then sold more than 1 million copies, so go woke doesn't go broke, right? But again, if you go back to Spider-Man, 1 million copies is actually terrible for Spider-Man, right? 1 million copies for Sword Outlaw is terrible. So the first thing you shouldn't fall for, right, in typical woke, dishonest tactics, is talking about this weird number they throw out without any context, right? Again, Metamorphosis selling 1 million copies isn't actually good, because Metamorphosis selling 1 million copies isn't actually that super impressive. It basically is Persona 6, right? Persona 5 is super popular. It has 4 or 5 spin-offs, has an anime, there's a goddamn stage play. There's a goddamn stage play, man. The game has a live-action stage play. It's crazy. And then you have a bunch of, 11 different Persona 4, Persona 3, right? So Metamorphosis is actually a very popular game. And don't get me wrong, I love this game. It's a really, really good game. I'm playing it currently, and I would say it is a 9, 10 out of 10 game. It's extremely good, so I think the game is fantastic. But I'm just saying that this game is selling 1 million copies out of nowhere, oh my god, go broke is over or whatever. No, because this game is like Persona 6, basically, more or less exactly Persona games. And those are one of the most popular games ever, like I said. 4 or 5 spin-offs, an anime, a live stage, a reload, remake, collector editions, blah blah so on. Very, very popular games, right? This basically is you expect to sell at least a few 100,000 copies easily, right? Same thing with Spider-Man, right? So the whole idea to say that this game has sold 1 million copies, and that disproves the whole go woke and broke theory, doesn't make any sense, because again, numbers as context means nothing, right? If Sega Atlus, one of the biggest game producers in the world, in this extremely popular game franchise, makes another game, it's gonna sell pretty well, right? Just like Spider-Man 2 sold really well, massive IP, famous studio, right? Whatever, yeah, those games sell pretty well, right? Again, mentioned earlier, Star Wars selling 1 million copies, so this game has sold less than, Star Wars, but it's a success, right? But Star Wars Outlaw is a failure, again, those numbers doesn't make any sense, right? You have to put them in context and so on. So it's really, really basically a dishonest tactic, right? You see all the time. You shouldn't fall for it. Secondly, another subcategory to this thing that I think people are very dishonest about, and it's not really, I say it honestly, living in reality, how it actually works, is that if a game or a movie, whatever, goes woke, goes broke, it actually usually happens in the next product, right? Not immediately in the first one. So what I mean with that is that the best example of that is actually the Marvel movies, of course, right? Not the Spider-Man games, but the Marvel movies. When the Marvel movies started to get worse and worse, right? And then get more and more like inclusive, right? They're exchanging all the previous characters to like female gender bender version of the previous male characters, and so on, right? And it got worse and worse, right? For many reasons, to be fair, not only because they changed the gender or race or whatever, also because of much of stuff too, but all that's happening, right? But for the first year or 2 years, they were still making money, right? Because they had established over a decade of, making this huge fan base to those movies. But then after 1 or 2 years, right, of these bad TV shows, bad movies, and 1 or 2 good in like 10 out of, like 1 in out of 5 movies are good or whatever, after that, right, people now are really tired, of course, of the Marvel Universe, and no one cares about, like, what's the name again? Really Williams, like the female Iron Man, no one cares, right? No one cares, and so on. Like, all these characters, and that's kind of how it works, right? It's not like the first product you produce that fails. In Star Wars, I think we actually saw it happening with Han Solo and Rogue One, where those 2 movies started to fail. That was kind of the beginning of the downfall of Star Wars, and of course, like Acolytes, everyone hates it basically, right? But I think even before that TV show was released, you had those movies that were kind of mid. They didn't really produce, and then obviously the new Star Wars 8 and 9 were kind of disliked by people. I mean, I hate Star Wars 8 and 9 massively. 7 was, I didn't even like 7. Okay, I think 7 was really boring. Same as 4, right? It was so incredibly unimaginative. But 8 and 9 I really hate, right? I hate them. So people kind of start falling off during those years, right? And now no one cares about Star Wars anymore. Honestly, let's be honest, no one really cares about. It's like a dead franchise now. It really is. And I know you said they're enormous, whatever, but I get my point, right? The bigger fans, the fans that actually buy the Creator Edition, because I bought the game, so on, right? These fans, the hardcore nerds like me, right? We fall off after one failed game, right? Or one failed movie, right? You know what I mean? So this game, separate than Spider-Man 2 here, next to me, right? Might have sold really well, because the first game was really great, right? And I bought this game, and I played it, haven't actually beaten it yet. That's kind of my point, right? I got really bored by this game, because yes, it is very woke, and it's kind of annoying, the story is pretty terrible. So I was like, so I'm not gonna buy the next game, right? I'm a great example of how, if you make a woke product, but you have had a successful, games or movies or whatever years before, right? It's not actually the first like woke fail game it's the next game, right? Because I still gave them a chance here, right? Because I love the first game of Spider-Man 1, I hate the Spider-Man 2, and I'm never gonna buy Spider-Man 3. To be fair though, honestly, and I want to say this because I'm a game developer, to be fair though, my biggest issue though with Spider-Man 2 wasn't just like the storyline and Mary Jane being fat or ugly or whatever, so on, even though it bothers me. My biggest issue, I have to say though, is it kind of like, it's just too safe. The gameplay felt too much similar to the first gameplay. So even though I really liked the first game, right, this game just felt too similar, and it's still enjoyable. And then you throw this like super bad storyline over it and annoying characters, and I'm just like, it's just like a worse version of the first game now, right? Eventually, because yeah, you have all the meta around it, which makes it worse. But it's not the worst game ever, but it definitely felt like a massive letdown. Right? So again, I'm not gonna spend time or money for the third game. Right? I think that's, like I said here, I bring it up because I think it's an important thing to understand that this is usually, right, how it actually goes. Like I said, people will give the more Marvel movies a chance, right? They watch the first 10 movies, they love them. Then the 11th movie is a complete DEI train wreck or whatever, right? And then the 12th movie you won't go for, you know what I mean? Like I said earlier, Star Wars, again, most people, right, that hate the 8th movie are gonna buy ticket for the 9th movie, right? So it's more like, you lost me at the 8th, and now I'm not gonna pay you for the 9th. I never went to theater to watch the 9th movie, right? Because I was already like, delusions from Star Wars. I was like, I'm out of this thing. Yeah, I heard at that point, right? But anyway, let's get some of the examples why these games aren't woke, actually. You haven't seen my sticker, right? I actually have Tifa here on my latest level stick. So I love FF7, and obviously I'm a massive mega fan of Final Fantasy my whole life, and I wrote my thesis about role-playing games, so I know these games quite well, okay? Nerd over, but seriously. FF7 is a game that I think actually the most this year being claimed to be woke, right? Currently, of course, Metamorphosis is a game that they will talk most about being woke, but this year, and even like I guess part one to some extent, is claimed to be woke, right? Now, obviously, I'm a little bit joking about it, like, air the teeth at the beach here, right, and then showing the tatas, but the thing is that this game isn't woke whatsoever. It really is, not just because it's showing their like big beach bikinis, right? No, but because the only reason that the crazy people are saying this is woke is because, of course, of the whole green and environmentalistic storyline of Shinra company trying, to like use the life force, and the planet itself is creating its weapons, and then Sephiroth is just wants to kill everything. He does his own thing, right? An alien crazy guy, right? But they want to claim then, right, that of course F7 is woke because, like I mentioned, green stuff. This is of course not very true at all, because first of all, I think we have to kind of define what is actually woke, right? People love to say, oh, you can't define it, oh, DEI and so on. And let me push this thing. When I was a kid, we didn't have the word woke, right? That word was established way later, probably in my 20s, whatever. But what we had was the word PC, right? When I was a kid, we would call them PK folk, which is as it's funny because today's on Reddit, folk is like, crazy people basically being super hated, right? So PK, because in Swedish, PC is better than K instead, right? So like PK people, right? PK folk. And PK folk were, of course, the exact same thing that we call woke or DEI today, right? The same people, right? The same agenda, same behavior. And the behavior was important here, right? Because we all know what someone actually means when they say woke. And it's one thing that I think is so incredibly dishonest, what's called the wokes themselves then, is that they will say that, oh, how can you like FF7 because like the bad guys are destroying the environment, it's super woke, right? Ugh. But we all know that they actually are lying there. We all know they are being dishonest, right? Because what actually issue is what is woke or not is, for example, like Iceman in Marvel, okay? Iceman was a published character, right? X-Men character for about 60 years as a straight guy, right? Suddenly Iceman is gay for no reason, and he gets his own comic book, which is about him dating guys and also fighting some villains, whatever. And it was cancelled in like a few months, right? Because I left it at 2 months, whatever, because it was terrible. No one really cared about Iceman for his own singular comic book, for that matter. And why is he here? He only got his own comic book because he suddenly was gay, you know what I mean? And why was he gay after 60 years of being straight, right? There was no build-up for it, nothing. That is woke, right? That is forced DEI, right? You're forcing a straight man to suddenly be gay, right? Without any build-up, nothing for it. That is being woke, right? That's the definition of woke, basically. Forced DEI. Forcing something like that. That's the definition, right? Come on. Like I said, and everyone knows this thing, right? Even so again then, the wokists themselves, they know that, right? So it's very, very dishonest tactic for them. Extremely dishonest tactic. But they're pretending that, oh, you were actually progressive, like also whatever, because you like FF7, the green stuff, right? Yeah, but FF7 isn't forcing us about being woke, right? FF7 isn't forcing the green storyline. FF7 would have been woke, right, if in the original game, Shinra was the good guys or whatever, I don't know, whatever, Shinra, the environment is whatever, right? And then they make this remake here, and suddenly in the remake, the environment is the storyline and this stuff is all right. That would have been woke. If you rewrote the whole storyline, right? That would have been woke. Super forced, right, But that's not what the game is doing. So, it is not woke, and everyone kind of knows it, right? And I think that, again, the definition of woke or DEI or whatever is basically, right, when you force something like Iceman. I think it's a great example of it, when you suddenly is making him gay after all these years for no reason, right? Or when you're, for example, making Iron Man into a woman, right, for no reason, right? All of that stuff, that is woke, right? When you're forcing a character, and obviously I'm not breaking any new grounds here, right? The whole idea of like taking an established character or a franchise, a game, a movie, whatever, and remaking that. Harry Potter, obviously Hermione is like a ginger British girl, right? And then they make a teacher play with her. I was in London yesterday, so but they make a teacher play with London, and she's black suddenly, right? And it doesn't mean that I don't like black people, right? My wife is black or whatever, right? But it's just like, yeah, my wife agrees. It's like, that's just kind of silly because she's obviously like a ginger white girl. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense, right? That is what everyone means, right? So anyway, now we have established that, okay, that is what woke is, right? That is what everyone means when we are saying the word woke or DEI or as a kid, PK-folk, right? We are meaning forced DEI. We're meaning that someone makes Hermione, a ginger girl, suddenly black, right? This is weird, right? Right about Pippi Longstockings suddenly being black, some play this summer also supposed to be a white girl with like a real carrot hair, right? You know, yeah, very red ginger girl. That is kind of strange. That is kind of forced, right? Or then trying to pretend that FF7 is woke because the main plot line is that the planet is dying isn't woke, okay? It would have been woke, like I said, if the original game before the remake had an older plot line, right? Yeah, that would have been woke, right? So that's a basic topic, right? Not woke. However, even more so, let's go into the game samples here then, obviously FF7 here, but even more so, right? The reason this game isn't woke is because the whole green thing, F7, is a ridiculous thing that the crazy people are pretending is a woke agenda, right? Like it's something unique for this game, but it really isn't. So what you have to understand, if you never played this game and you don't know about this franchise, is that this is basically every game storyline. So if there's any reason that F7 isn't woke, it really is because the whole green saving the planet thing is actually a storyline they basically have in every game, right? So this here is Lavos, right? Lavos is a parasite that landed on Earth and trying to eat it, right? Lavos basically is Jenova, honestly. The storyline is super similar for that matter. It's also the same storyline in World of Warcraft, but whatever. This is actually why F7 isn't woke, honestly. If the whole green environment thing doesn't make any sense, because Square Enix, or Squaresoft, back in those days then, has used its storyline for like every game. It's always like, oh, the whole planet is dying for some reason, right? Because almost every JRPG has a storyline about some god or something destroying the planet, right? Or, almost like this crazy clown. So Kefka then, in FF6 then, the game before 7 of course, he destroys the planet. Oh, spoiler, whatever. He tries to also nuke the planet, right? So the whole concept that FF7 again would be woke because of the environment, again, it makes no sense. Because every FF7 game, every FF part remake, different spin-off games, FF7, or the previous FF games, or even Chrono Trigger, or other Mana games and other stuff like that, right? They all have that storyline. The Legend of Mana, right? Then Seketsu. Same storyline. Oh, the Mana tree kind of Yggdrasil, and she's dying, and if she dies, all the mana dies and everyone dies, when the evil prince of death can take over the planet. I mean, this is basically always the storyline in all of their games, in a nutshell, right? So, no. F7 isn't woke, it just happens to be in that game, it was the environment dying, right? In the 8th game, you have evil witches nuking the planet. It's kind of like, what are you doing with this again? That's kind of weird. And in the 9th game, the whole world is dying already because they're trying to replace the planet with another planet, yeah. And they're trying to like get the mist from their planet. In the 10th game, I mean, everyone basically dies every 10th year in the 10th game with shit, yeah, with the whole UI1 thing. You get my point, right? So it's always this like doomsday storyline in every FF game. The whole green thing makes zero sense and it's a complete bullshit argument. I guess you could argue that they're all woke, I suppose. Yeah, they're all woke because it's always that the planet is dying somehow. Or that's the truth, yeah. If anything, actually, it is kind of... like I said, I'm a huge fan of the games. But honestly, like Kefka here, it's a trope, right? These games basically always have then they end with the whole world being online, right? You know, they start a little village, and you fight some random ogres or goblins or whatever, and eventually you fight a god, right? That's basically the JRPG storyline. Same thing in Persona 5, so you're fighting God. God, yes, literally God, yeah, manifestation of people's souls or something, or people's mentality, yeah, evil God guy down in the basement, that's the last boss in the original Persona 5. He's like, yeah, okay, great. It's how it goes, right? To some extent, I think it's kind of cute with JRPG games like, for example, Suikoden, where it's kind of like, well, if you lose this fight, the whole continent will be conquered by these evil fascist, you know, guys. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But it's not that kind of mega malami like evil guy like Kefka, so I kind of like it sometimes when this genre doesn't have the super evil doomsday thing. But let's be honest here, almost all of them usually end up like this eventually. So, no, it's not Vogue, right? Anyway, long point about that game, but it's kind of funny because I was thinking about it for a long time, for making a video for weeks now. And I think a reason these people actually even act like this, so some expect it's complete dishonesty, right? But again, they're very dishonest, pretend they don't know what it means, or pretending it's only in the F7 or whatever, right? But to some extent, because I've been tracking these people, right? They've been saying this game is Vogue, metaphor competent Yrkeshögskola, and I think that what I actually do think, to some extent, is that they actually haven't played these games, right? They probably even haven't played FS7, you know what I mean? You have to also remember that most of these people are complete fakes, right? They're not gamers, and I even mean people that are kind of, oh, I'm a gamer guy, and I even mean like YouTubers, right? That are crazy, loony YouTubers that pretend to be nerds or whatever. You have to remember, most of these people, they don't know shit about gaming, okay? Or anime, or comic books, or, you know, movies, or whatever, right? Or just anything nerdy, because for them, honestly, this actually might be a complete, oh my god, this game sold 1 million copies. What is this? Because they don't know about Persona. They haven't heard about Persona before. That actually might be how it for them, right? They might think that FF7 is unique, having a doomsday planet dying, even though in the game before it literally happened the exact same storyline, basically. So if anything, it's an unoriginal, to be honest, right? But for them, F7 might be the only JRPG they ever played, or they probably didn't play. They probably just like, you know, watched, you know, yeah. So it is one thing you have to remember too, that these people are so actual non-fake nerds, right? That they don't even have the comparison. Or they're just lying. They're probably both though. Some of them are lying, but some of them are actually completely, you know, uneducated in this topic, right? They have nothing to compare it to. So that's the thing to remember as well. Okay, so next game that I heard is Vogue apparently is FF16, right? And obviously, since this last year, but why we're all the Final Fantasy games, and this is pretty new. I think we can compare this game here, the FF7. Now, the storyline in this game has nothing to really do with the 7 thing. However, like I said, the bad guy is trying to basically destroy the planet, right? And the planet is dying, so it's gonna have the classic storyline. The Doomsday storyline is there, as expected, but this game then is seen as Vogue, right? Because there's a scene when 2 boys kiss each other. Yeah, it's gay, right? It's gay gaming. But that is not Vogue, right? You know what I mean? You might say I'm cheating here because it's my definition of Vogue, right? That we established earlier in the video. But come on, let's be honest, that's the actual real definition of Vogue, is that it's forced, right? Games aren't Vogue just because you have, 2 guys kiss each other, right? And this happens with Bahamut and his boyfriend. And Bahamut is like a very supportive side character. He's not even like, he's like a side, you know what I mean? He's like FT reporters in this game. He's a boss fight and then he joins you basically, spoilers, whatever. Story of the game is terrible, but yeah, whatever. So he joins you, his boyfriend has that or whatever. But these are so incredibly minor. His scenes are really underdeveloped. If anything, and I stand by saying this thing, I think 16 is anti-Vogue, if anything. Yeah, it's anti-Vogue, because the worst storyline in the game is probably Bahamut. Like, this game has a lot of bad storylines, I think, for the side characters, and Bahamut is very underdeveloped, so, I mean, that, to me, calling this game Vogue shows you how literally takes for them to try to, like I said earlier, of course, in the premise here, right? Being dishonest and pretending that all these games are woke or whatever. Because again, no, it isn't woke because they have like one kiss scene between two guys that are incredibly, like, you know, not important for the storyline. It's a side thing. If anything, this is really good, okay? I don't want to sit there, I don't want to pretend the game is terrible, sorry. My point is that, the game is good, right? The game does it well, if anything. Because the game actually has two guys that are in love, right? But it's not the whole storyline. This is a storyline when you smash your wife, right? You get with Jill. Yeah. The storyline's about Clive and his girlfriend Jill here, and they finally get together and this and here, right? So they have a much, much longer, you know, straight scene. If we can talk about that. But like, this whole gay kissing, right? It's very subtle. It's on the side note, and the game keeps going, pretending that whatever, right? The game just kind of, you know, keeps going, so to speak, and that's much better, right? The game isn't like focusing on it. I mean, sure, it's a cutscene in the game, but the game isn't like spending 5 hours on that thing, right? It's not the main plot line. The game isn't driven by the gay romance or whatever. Right? It's just like two guys are doing it in the background. You know what I mean? And that actually is really well done. I keep saying it. If every game was this, if the, you know, this is of course a Japanese game, right? But if the left Chris people, right, in the West, which tends to, you know, be way more of this, right? If they had done it like this, right, where they had some gay kiss scenes in the background of Dragon Age or whatever, no one would have cared, right? So some people still hate it, but like 99% people wouldn't care, right? You know. But instead, it's like, oh, we have trans this thing and that thing, and the main character is like this thing. I mean, that's why they push it so hard, right? And they make it part of the storyline, and you can't avoid it. Also, yeah. No. This game is never for a second. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And also, finally, for that matter, we're coming to Meta 4 now soon. But I see a lot of people saying that this game has a black woman in it, Birgitta, which is like a dark elf, of course, but yeah, black woman. See people say, oh, this game is super woke, because one of the main female support, and arguably the hottest female character in the game, is black, right? How can they like it? And they're pretending, I think it's really funny, but they're pretending that people that is thirsty for Birgitta are actually then, woke or progressive, right? They wanna label them as being progressive because they like a black woman. But I'm just like, but you understand, there is no black people. It's a fantasy game. She's like a dark elf. It's coming back to, I'll leave a link below for that, but it's coming back to some of my previous videos about anime, where you have a bunch of anime characters, like for example Yurichi, probably the most popular type of this thing, Yurichi, which is a Japanese woman, right? But Americans pretend that she's black, you know what I mean? That's what I think with Birgitta in that game, because it's like, people are saying that, oh, but if you like, this character, you have to be like progressive or something. It's like, no, but she's not even, she's like a dark elf. It's not even the same thing. I don't have to be that guy. But I feel the same thing here, right, with this game, which is like, oh, but if you like this game, it's gonna be popular, right? You have to be progressive, you have to be woke then. It's like, no, I like it because they actually, and the vanity, like I said, it's vanity the game is anti-woke, because they actually make that gay scene be like part of the storyline without, being in your face, without being pushed into your face. And I have no problem with Muhammad being gay, right? Like, whatever, let's keep going. It's just, like, it's not the main storyline or whatever. If it was the main storyline, yeah, that would be, like, kind of weird, But it isn't, right? This is how it should be done, actually. But no, this game isn't more for a second, right? Then, like I said, if anything, it is still somewhat underdeveloped. So now, let's go to the biggest part of it, I feel. Metamorphosis ReFantazio, right? This game is super woke, guys. And everyone can say that this game is selling 1 million copies. And because it has a million copies, this proves that Go Woke is not broke anymore, right? First of all, I said earlier, this game is Persona 6, basically, right? The Persona 5 is extremely popular, yada yada, Atlus, Sega, also the Yakuza games are basically kind of the same, developers, Sega thing, and these games are very, very popular, right? This game was super hyped for everyone in the, JRPG community long before it was released. This game was gonna sell like 500,000 copies just on being Persona 6, right? So that you have to first understand, right? Like I said earlier again, but this context of like how famous and well established is actually the developer, right, and the RP, right, is very, very important. Now, if this game was terrible, I would be disappointed, right, about the creative tradition, then I'll be sad and I'll be like, oh my god, I hate Atlas again now. But I love this game. It's a great game. So immediately I love this game. I'll make a video about it guys later. Subscribe and press that like button or whatever. Because I'm gonna make it for a full review on the game, and I'm bit in the game. I'm kind of halfway through now. I'm a little more, maybe 2/3 of the game. It's a long game, of course. I play for like 60 hours, 60, 70 hours. But also means that I feel I can comfortably discuss this game is woke or not, right? I don't think I have to play the game more to be able to tell you that part, right? Honestly. But anyway, again, it's when I really address the point that, come on, this game, for me at least, was one of the most hyped games this year. I had very high confidence that this game was gonna be like a 10 out of 10 game, right, for the whole year before I played the game. So I was very, very hyped by it. And again, that's one of the reason why I bought the collector's edition, right, you know. So anyway, that's established. But again, context matters, right? This game is very, very popular, okay? At least among, you know, nerds that I go around with, right? And like I said earlier, perhaps, to be fair, to these crazy noobs, right, they have probably never played Persona games, right? I even have a Persona poster already, actually, with Queen, of course. You know, best character Persona 5, freaking Makato Queen, right? I have a huge poster for her next to my other poster with Aqua on that wall, actually, think about it. So, but whatever, I guess. Point is that, again, Persona's very, very popular, right? But perhaps these people that are fake gamers, right, never played those games, or similar games, like Yakuza and so on, from the same say guys that, you know, the main developer of them, and they're very similar combat-wise, 7, 8, and Yakuza. Maybe they never played them, you know what I mean? Also, for that matter, right, Yakuza 8, Infinite Wealth, one of the best games this year. I love this game. The game is so good, yeah. This January this year, hard to remember how, because it's been a bunch of good games this year, but honestly, it's one of the best games this year, man. This game was fantastic as well, right? Makes Ichiban, which I love about main character, but whatever. Again, I digress. I nerd out here, but I really love Yakuza 7 and 8. They're really great games. But anyway, now this game is in particular very interesting, right? Because I'm thinking about this topic for a long time. The whole idea that, like, you know, oh, is F7 actually woke or whatever? Like I said earlier, no, clearly it isn't, because that is always the storyline of fantasy games. The whole world is being doomed, right? So no, not really. But this game, though, is very surface level woke, right? So in Metamorphosis, it's all about racism, okay? Seriously. You are basically an LD. You're at the lowest race. Everyone hates you. Everyone blames you for some kind of, like, cataclysmic, you know, offense. Oh, you guys killed God or something, right? So everyone really hates you, right? And then a lot of the storyline is about befriending other people with different races. There are like elves-ish kinda, these like bad people, and then eventually you might befriend them, right? And then become your supporter, and you basically cannot date them, perhaps, or you befriend them depending on the gender or whatever, so on. And then you get, like, you know, some plus points. Then you unlock like an archetype. So every person you can befriend unlocks a game mechanic, right? And then the further you develop your romance or friendship, whatever, with them, you basically get more and more deeper into it, right? And you get more stats for your class and like an advanced class, so on. It's part of the game mechanics, similar again, of course, Persona games. So at surface level, this game is super woke, right? Because again, you basically everyone hates you. It's all about like tolerance and this thing. But honestly, this game isn't woke, like, at all. For a couple of reasons why, honestly. But I think immediately it isn't woke in the same sense that FF7 isn't about like saving the planet or whatever. Because this game is like the king is forcing you to enter this war between all the races, right? And this is basically creating like a doomsday device, as in all the JRPGs, right? So the doomsday device in this game is this, like, I guess, race war, like a better term for it. But basically, it is again more you know, the general premise of why this planet will be destroyed is because of this thing, right? The game isn't really so much focusing on like saying that why it's happening or whatever, this thing, or it's bad or wrong or whatever. It's more like the general premises when this thing will lead into like a cataclysmic event. And in the game you have these like dates and times, right? And every time it's like, well, at 10 days from now, this guy's gonna nuke the main capital. You better stop that, right? So it's kind of the Kefka thing, right? The Kefka thing. Yeah, so sure, at surface value level, it's like Vogue, because you have tolerance and you have friendship and race stuff and so on. You have friendship between different, nationalities and cultures and so on, right? But it is much more about, like, again, a game mechanic device, right? To explain why some guy is gonna nuke the capital or something like that, right? So I think that's the first thing you have to remember, that in essentially it is a JRPG, right? Using these kind of tropes as, okay, this is why it's a war or whatever. This is why this guy is crazy and he's gonna destroy everything, right? That's the first thing you have to remember. Secondly, this game does not fulfill, like I said earlier, right? ReFantazio here doesn't fulfill basically the definition of what is Vogue, right? Because this is a complete new game. It is obviously Persona 6, more or less 100%, but it is, fantasy version of that, right? But it's not like we are rewriting a previous character. Every character is new, right? We always say this thing: if you want to have like a gay main character in a video game, make your own new game, right? Don't take Iceman and force it to be gay, right? This game has, like trans characters, bi characters, they have this and that, right? And it really is like, well, it's a complete new game, so it's not really forcing anything, right? It's not like rewriting any character to be like that before, right? Same thing with the Persona game, so it's like new character per Persona game, right? 1, 2, 3, so not speed up, but 1, 2, 3, and so on. So they're not rewriting anything here. Nothing is forced at all, so it doesn't feel like forced DEI for a second in this game, which also is a reason why it's good, because you're not really bothered by the characters, right? Instead, it's actually like really well written. Of course, it's very progressive because you learn about racist people killing like babies because they're the wrong race and so on. There's a lot of dark elements to the game, right? And you could argue it's progressive, and I think that's fair. So I want to be a little bit like trying to scale here, I suppose, right? But I guess the game is somewhat progressive because yes, it does focus on race issues, babies, inner breeding, like different, can you be these two different things? But on the same time, it is not like it's actually isn't the main storyline bit, and it isn't like forcing it in onto you. It's more like an underlying trope, and it reminds me so much of how Stan Lee was talking about this in X-Men and so on, right? In interviews, he would say that, well, no, we're gonna have like progressive values and this so on, right? But it's never the main focus, right? The main focus is the fighting, the main storyline, so on. Then we might have that, Rogue is gay or whatever, but that doesn't really, that's the main storyline. Where, of course, today, Marvel, right, now it's like Iceman being gay is the main storyline. That's never how Stan Lee wrote it, right? This game is like Stan Lee does it, right? Yes, race is one of the main conflict issues in this game, but the game is still about combat, game mechanics, right? And dating hot waifus, right? Trying to smash this like Paripus, her race. So kind of like wolf cat people, yeah, were pretty hot, right? Like Fabian, that MILF, So basically, it's like, some kind of like, typical Persona thing. I want to smash this hot waifu, right? Yeah, but come on, let's be honest here. That's the goal here, okay? No one cares that you want to help her because it's a Paripus. I want to get her pets, goddammit. The main goddamn this game is removed romance scenes, yeah. No, but seriously, so that's the main focus, right? Everything around it is just basically the premise, right? The kind of the coating over it. But again, it's not the actual main focus of the game. The game is you're not spending time in this game running around writing like manifestos or whatever, or something. The activists. No, you're fighting like giant monsters called humans. I think it's a great part of the game. It's a great fun there. The biggest monster are called humans, and they're disgusting and so on. You're fighting them, right? And by doing that, people like you, so they vote for you in the elections. Yeah, it's not like, the actual gameplay is completely irrelevant. That, oh no, these like Paripus and Eagles are fighting, but because I killed this giant human monster hybrid bird dragon thing, now everyone likes me, so I win the election. I mean, it's just like, again, it's a premise of standpoint. It actually isn't vocal or not. Lastly, one thing that I think is very interesting though, and it comes back to the human part, it must Attack on Titan. Okay, so now I'm gonna spoil Attack on Titan for you guys. It's a terrible manga anime, so don't watch it anyway. No, but I'm not spoiling now, I'm talking about the Marleys here. But it actually is very similar to Metamorphosis. I want to bring it up here, guys. So, but spoiler warning, obviously then. The thing, right, with Titan a few years ago, was a lot of people said that Out is progressive and vocal and so on. like a lot of people saying that Attack on Titan is woke because basically, right, the aliens are Jews, the Marleys here, right, are Nazis, right? They're complete Nazis. So, and they have camps and they kill the aliens and so on, right? And we're obviously following the alien standpoint, and we're seeing how evil the Marleys are and yada yada, right? So the game was like very, anti World War II propaganda, so on, and like it was pro anti that stuff, right? And so on. And it is, to some extent still, obviously, all aliens are evil or whatever. But there is a massive issue, context though, which I think is very true. And that's that, well, is it really against it though? Because aren't the Marleys kind of correct though? And I don't mean like that the ends or the Nazis are correct. No, but the Marleys technically are, right? Because Eren ends up like killing everyone, so they were correct being afraid of him doing that to begin with. But also like the issue with the concept of that that these people will be the same thing, right, as Nazi and so on, is that, well, in reality, right, being afraid of another human race because they have another skin color and so on is silly. It's ridiculous, right? It is ridiculous. It's stupid. Yeah, it's stupid. It's stupid being a racist. But the aliens in Attack on Titan are actually not humans. They're actually something else. They're basically aliens or whatever, right? They're basically blessed by this like Yggdrasil power, right? So all the aliens are not humans anymore whatsoever. They're not born by humans. They're not humans. They're like transformed something else, right? They're giants, right? All the aliens can become a Jotun, right? A giant, right? So they're basically some kind of Norse mythology monsters, right? So the Marleys are afraid of the aliens and keep them captured. And I know it must sound weird. Now people go like, "What are you talking about?" But it is not like World War II. Honestly, it is not, okay? I mean, I obviously based the World War II. Obviously, the author is Ishiyama is inspired World War II. But, like, Jews can turn into giant monsters, right? Obviously, you can always a metaphor and an allegory for it. But, but it's kind of like, but these are actually powerful monsters. And in the end of the storyline, they do kill everyone. They do so like what? So it's like, well, no, it's not really the same, right? So saying Attack on Titan is woke, I find interesting. Or say, yeah, because like, well, yeah, but you could easily argue that the Marleys are the correct, you know what I mean? They're actually good guys. And going back then to Metamorphosis, right? It's honestly also a big issue, I feel, that people say the game is woke, because it's the same thing kind of idea, right? Metamorphosis in this game, right? Like this guy here is an Yrkeshögskola, which is like a bad person. This is not a human, okay? I'm not gonna be that guy. These bad people, we should all die. No. But my point is that, like this guy isn't even remotely human. This guy is basically an alien. You know what I mean? It's just like, this game isn't about racism. This game is about speciesism, because next to him is like a red top elf lady, right? Hulkenberg is clearly an elf. They call him the S in this game, but she's an elf. And he is like a bat guy, right? He can glide and fly or something, and has different hearing. He's like a daredevil. He has bad vision and weak again. Like, this is not the same race for a second, right? So, of course, there's some allegories that these guys are this thing, but to be fair, right, if you can take a Titan, these two are not the same species at all, right? They have completely different proportions, different powers, and different magic abilities, and they have some different, unique, traits because of their powers and so on, right? So, that these two, in theory, would hate each other, might have war with each other, is not the same thing as on Earth, right? And I know people say, oh, it's you being, they're gonna say that, no, that's like dishonest for me now. It's trying to be like, no, but it's not like black versus white people, because these people actually can fly or something like that. But honestly, you can't just use. I think it is a very massive disservice people keep doing. Most of them from the crazy left, right? Honestly, but even some on the right as well. I think it's ridiculous every time that I read someone trying to argue that, like, oh, Maggot the Gathering cards are racism because, these are like, these orcs are obviously black people. I'm like, no, I'm just watching orcs there, right? If anything, every time, right, someone tries to claim that, oh, like, these bad guys here, they're clearly like Jews or something. I'm like, are you a racist? Right? Because every time I see someone saying that, no, this card in Magic Gathering, which is showing these goblins are black, I'm like, no, those are goblins. I don't see that. I genuinely don't see the for me, goblins are goblins, right? You know what I mean? I think it's really weird when people are trying to always like say that, oh, this guy, like this bad guy here, he's like a stealth guy, he's a sneaky, he's a you know what I mean? He's obviously, yeah, he's a sneaky you. Like that's what people say, right? You know, that's what people say about this game. Like that's crazy talk. Yeah, that's crazy talk. These magical races like dark elves, high elves, wood elves, whatever. No, but I was not joking. But orcs and elves and whatever he is, then bad guy, goblins, whatever, right? They don't have to always represent real, actual people, right? Real, actual races. No, this is a magical world. This guy is tiny and he can fly and has super hearing, right? He's not representing a human. He's not a sneaky you because he's a you, because he's sneaky, right? And she's not. I guess she's like a high elf. I guess she would be like a white woman. Yeah, she's like a aristocrat, rich lady. She's like I guess a European white woman. No, she's not that. She's a high elf lady, right? That have certain magical powers. Yeah, it's like no, it's not the same thing, and it's really silly people try to do that. I think massively silly, and this is also a reason, right? Why I don't find this game vogue at all, honestly, because like I said. I think the Titan, is a much better example of it, right? So I bring it up because the aliens really are dangerous. The aliens do have powers. The alien leader eventually kills everyone. So you're like, well, that guy is like super evil, and the Marleys were technically correct. Yeah, they're obviously evil too. I think the reason, though, to be fair, in on Titan, the Marleys also do war against other countries. So if they only fought the aliens, ergo our, the main characters, then I would say they're actually the good guys completely, because but the main characters are evil. Like the main character, Aaron, right? He is evil, right? He's absolutely evil. So so they're doing great, yeah. But they also have some wars with some other countries a little bit. That being said, though, basically every other country in Attack on Titan are agreeing with them that they should all, kill the giant people, yeah. Which makes sense because they are, again, actually giants, right? So, which also, like I said earlier, that sure, absolutely, are the aliens written to be, of basically used, right, in that world, and everyone hates them and so on, right? So it's very much based on, the classic issue of, that Jews have experienced over history of time, right? Absolutely. The comparison there, the analogy is very, very clear. But like I keep saying, though, everyone hates them because they have killed everyone else in wars before, turning into giants and eaten them. So the Japanese dislikes them, right? The Korean dislikes them, whatever, the Chinese and so on. They all dislike them because, like, well, those people can turn into a giant and they killed, like, my grandpa or something, you know what I mean? So it's like, no, but it still is like, no, it's a massive reason why all other countries actually makes an alliance against them. And actually, again, of course, the whole manga anime ends with their whole country being, destroyed by airplanes from the other countries, yeah, eventually, right? They all get nuked to bits, right? Which, after what Aaron did, makes complete sense, yeah. So, it's really weird. And I guess that this game here is less extreme like that. It's not like the bad guy, the effigies, can transform into giant humans, though, or can they? So, I want to spoil too much this game here myself, right? About the movies here. But basically, like I said, in this game you also have humans, which are called humans. They basically look like Titans from Attack on Titan, like straight up. So they're very, very similar. And of course, some of the people can, transform into them or whatever, right? I don't know details here. But it is a very, very similar thing, right? Where you have these magics, and like I said, a goblin is a goblin, right? A goblin is not black or something, no. So it's really weird. And I think that, like I said, I actually thought about it a lot, right? But I feel like it is a very much a forced inclusivity, forced DEI behavior from these people when they're trying, right, to make that, oh yeah, like I said earlier, of course this guy is actually supposed to represent this thing or something. No, he isn't, right? Sometimes perhaps, though. That being said, I said earlier, but I just want to iterate the point that it is, of course, to some extent progressive. I can't sit here and pretend that this game isn't like woke, so to speak, whatsoever, because certainly it has a lot of, again, progressive values in it, right? But I keep coming back to it that, in most JRPG games, you're playing the good guy, right? And you're not playing a more tolerant person you're then in Persona 5, you're playing as Joker, trying to smash every god and wife, basically, yeah. Because the same thing there, right? You talk to your girlfriend, and she is sad because her dad is dead or something, and you have to have, empathy level 10 to be able to, make her calm down or whatever, right? I mean, it's just a game mechanic that we've seen in these dating games since like the early 90s, basically. And it is not particularly woke. It's just, again, tolerance in this game is basically just empathy or whatever you call a lot of games, more or less. Like, how much can you understand and, like, talk to people. They also you also have elegance, like charm, so it's like two different skills you have, but basically you have to usually combine those two, right, to be able to, talk to people that are in duress, that are sad or whatever, right? And then you have other skills, for example, like what's called wisdom, of course. It's like generally you might need certain intelligence points to be able to, and the same thing in the Yakuza games, right? Yakuza, I mentioned earlier, it's 8 example. This is the year, right? Ichiban and so on. Same thing there, right? You have intelligence and charm and so on there, and to complete that quest, right, you have to have Ichiban charm at like 10 out of 10, because as you can seduce this hot chick or whatever, you can get the quest to start, so on, right? So they all follow this exact same like quest system model, right? But make his may like you here at the bad guy, you might need to have like 4 in courage, whereas he won't train you in the night or whatever. I mean, stuff like that, right? So are all these games then woke? Because seriously, right, the whole, again, tolerance value is just another word for empathy, right? So, or intelligence sometimes again, but usually empathy. So it's just like, yeah, those games aren't woke either. It's just a game mechanic, right? It's a game mechanic that values how good you are at talking to people, basically, right? How good you are at communicating with people, basically. So it's like, no, that's like, a skill that this game had, right? But to be fair, like I said, this game certainly focused on race stuff more, and that's why I guess they call it like tolerance, right, in this game. I don't actually remember what they call it in Japanese now. I should check it out maybe, what to say in Japanese, because sometimes, though, that's also kind of funny, though. And I think that's something that's true with this game, though. It certainly is partially woke, this game, because some of the translation has been, as in most games, right, mistranslated, right? There are certainly stuff, I'm obviously playing it on Japanese audio with English text, right? And it's always in these games, sometimes I'm just like, that was weirdly translated, you know what I mean? That's probably the translator forcing some agenda there. If this game is woke, that's actually what it's mostly woke, fake translation, right? Like many other games, Fortnite, right? And I do wonder what the Japanese word now they actually use for tolerance, because they probably use like empathy or something. They probably actually use what they usually call, yeah. And it feels a little bit like force-fed there, because the other things like Yuki is courage, I know. Because they clearly say Yuki when you get level up there. It's very clear, like, oh, Yuki up, so it's like easy to hear. But anyway, that's Metamorphosis guy. Let's keep going. Honestly, because she definitely was a little more naughty, right, than the other characters. And honestly, the thing is that why Sega's doing this thing isn't to be woke, it's actually to be anti-woke. And this is kind of funny. So honestly, I see a lot of people complaining, right, that Rogue now then is less sexy, right? And also Amy, and there's more stuff too, but mostly Rogue, right? Okay, so Rogue is less sexy. And people are like, oh no, Sega is woke now. They're reducing, her op-eyes or whatever. They're tiny and so on, right? But the reason Sega is doing this thing is to be anti-woke. That actually is the reason why. Because Sega, and I know this inside information, but it's pretty obvious though, is that they're really tired of the furries. Okay, and it's not a joke. I mean it literally. I'm laughing, but it's so stupid. But it's the actual thing. Right? Sega has had for the last 20 plus years, right? Tumblr time, 25 years of that craziness, right? Of everyone being this like furry stuff with Sonic. You know what I mean? Sonic has like one of the worst, if not the worst, fan base of all time, right? Obsessive furry fans. I'm sorry, guys, come at me. No, but like, I'm not even joking. To some extent, right? I'm being a little official, but honestly, so Sega, the reason they're like nerfing this stuff, and the reason they rewrote Amy as well, so Amy isn't in love with Sonic anymore, right? Or she might be, but she's not as thirsty anymore, is because they were so tired of all, like, you know, the furry people that like Amy tried to smash Sonic or whatever, all the hen stuff. And I mean, I'm not joking. This is actually how it is. Like, seriously, right? Imagine making these like games, right? Platform games for children, and it's like everyone is like drawing Amy and Sonic and Rogue doing it all the time. You're like, oh, god damn, I'm tired of this shit. Yeah, like it's like seriously. So a lot of years back, this is not for this game, but it's actually more like almost 15 or so years ago, Sega changed their idea of Amy. So Amy was going to be less thirsty, right? Because they were really tired of all the Amy, you know, fanfic and so on. Honestly, straight up. And then they decided to also make Rogue less hot and so on too, right? Because they were like, no. So it's kind of funny. People say it's super woke, but it is actually anti-woke in that sense. And I'm sorry, I was joking a little bit. I don't think that woke and furries are the same thing, but they usually are the same thing. So this game is coming out tomorrow, I believe, right? Dragon Age. I bring it up here because this game is super duper woke. And after this, I will give you an example of a game that everyone claims is woke, but isn't woke. But I want to have an intermission here of showing you an actual woke game, right? So this game is super woke, of course it is. And I think that this game will be a miserable, shitty game, okay? The reason I say this thing is not because it doesn't have any, how I say it, scars or whatever, or you can have, pile scars. The reason I'm saying that Dragon Age is gonna massively fail, it's not because you can be trans or whatever, right? It's because, of course, that me and basically everyone else a bit critical of the game has received no copies. Right? Sometimes even I get copies of games, but no, not for this game, right? So let's be honest, this game will come out tomorrow. It's gonna be a bad game, right? If the studio only sends out copies to people that they like, right? People that have given them great feedback earlier, right? They have sent out some copies or whatever to early people like a few weeks ago, and the people were critical there. They get a new copy this time for the full game. No, this game is gonna suck. Let's be honest here. They are massively curating who gets to review the game up ahead before it's released, right? And they're obviously bribing them with, you know, set up money. Or if not money, they're giving them trips and this is assets media, right? So this game is gonna be terrible. It's just straight up from that alone. They're basically showing us that the developer has no faith in this game, right, whatsoever. And I have no either. So yes, Dragon Age will be a massive, terrible game. However, it might still sell numbers because it's a well-recognized franchise. Well-recognized IP, recognized studio. Now, of course, the studio has failed miserably many times over the years, but still, you know, established many years ago. And, of course, EA has, like, infinite budget for, you know, whatever ads and so on. So it probably will still sell millions of copies, but I think the game is going to be terrible. If they're so afraid of giving the copies, the game will be terrible. It's just straight up terrible. Okay. Now, last thing I want to say about Dragon Age. I said it in another video, but I think it's iterate to say it here again, right? The reason the Dragon Age with the whole trans thing or the top scar thing doesn't make any sense, right? It's just because it's so stupid. It doesn't fit into the game world, right? It's just like, no. But because if you would be trans in Dragon Age, why wouldn't you use magic to do it, right? That's why it makes no sense, right? And I think that, for example, when I'm watching something like Ranma 1.5, great remake, love it. Ranma, he changed gender by water, right? And turning into a hot waifu, right? And back and forth and so on, right? And that's not exactly how magic works in Dragon Age, but that's kind of what you expect, right? From like in a world where people can transform into monsters and dragons can become humans or whatever, and back and forth and everything in between, right? You really expect them to have like top scar surgery. Why wouldn't someone just invent magic so you can change gender, right? Or whatever, turn into like a futanari with both genders or whatever. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it logically doesn't make no sense that you would have some kind of weird, like, modern surgery to remove your breast, but you couldn't go to like some kind of wizard that could transform you into a woman instead, or man, or whatever you want to be as. That would make so much more sense. So it's just so stupid. It's just incredibly stupid, but whatever. Now, the last game that isn't actually woke, people love saying it's woke because it was so successful or whatever, is Baldur's Gate 3, right? And I mean it. I don't actually think that Baldur's Gate 3 is woke whatsoever. I was talking about with my brother actually when the game was released last year, and he was like, "Oh, but isn't the game like Vogue or whatever? Because you have the beer scene and so on, and you can like have you can have trans whatever and so on, right?" So first of all, in one of my playthroughs, in my biggest playthrough actually, when I did every quest and everything, I was playing a Futta tiefling, right? I was a woman with a large dong, right? You know what I mean? So I'm RPing that I'm a woman with a member, and I like to smash women, whatever. Yeah, you can go for that. But the thing is that Baldur's Gate 3 isn't really like progressive with the thing actually, or that you can be gay or whatever. No. Baldur's Gate 3 is just perverted, like straight up. And I mean it, it's a hentai. No, but seriously, because Baldur's Gate 3 is like everyone is omnisexual or whatever, right? If you are playing, as I said, I'm playing a woman with a penis, right? In one of my playthroughs, I can still smash everyone. I can smash the beer, I can smash the vampire, I can smash the night elf, the dark elf, whatever you call it, roses, man, right, gnomes, and everyone wants my member, right, you know what I mean? And they also want my vagina, right? Because I have both, whatever, yeah. It doesn't matter, right? If I play as a drow ranger, this thing with like, I can still smash everyone, right? So I don't see BG3, Baldur's 3 as Vogue whatsoever, because it isn't Vogue. It is not that you can have like a gay romance or lesbian romance with trans. I don't see that, honestly. I see that this game allows you to smash everyone, always, every angle, all the time, every character. And if anything, I actually hate that in the game, honestly. I think one of the worst part of this game is that everyone is so incredibly thirsty for you immediately. I don't mind having like romance scenes, right, in a game or whatever, or having some kind of, you can marry a kids or whatever. I like that, but in this game, it almost feels like there's no value to it, because you can do Lazar in like 6 minutes in the gameplay, right? Basically, immediately in the first bandit camp or whatever, the first time you camp or so on, you do like 1 or 2 quests. You can sleep with half the cast immediately. You can almost do everyone like the day 1, right? And for me, it's like, man, this game is just a hentai. This game is just an error game. I really don't feel the Baldur's Gate 3 is Vogue, just because you can sleep with everyone. Like I said, you can sleep with everyone all the time, and it's just too easy. I think it, for me, honestly breaks the immersion. And I feel that the developer, right, which made it really, I like the game a lot. I played it for about 300 hours, right? I like the game a lot. But I feel when it comes to this, like, lesbian, gay, trans thing, whatever, right? LGBTQ stuff in Baldur's Gate 3, I don't think the game is actually, honestly, good in that sense. I don't think it's progressive actually at all. It basically just like a porn game, right? Where, again, everyone can smash everyone. And it doesn't make any sense, right? Because, like I said, if I'm playing a Futanori, right, I have both genders, everyone wants me. No one has issue with that. Everyone wants it anyway. Both ways, up and down, top down, yeah, bottom. No one cares, right? If I play a man, no one cares. If I play a bear, no one cares. If I play a woman, no one cares. You know what I mean? Like, that's not reality whatsoever. It's just kind of ridiculous, right? And again, then, everyone is super thirsty, so no one really cares. It's just automatically, you can sleep with everyone all the time, yeah. No. I think it's ridiculous saying this game is Vogue, honestly. I always find it ridiculous. But of course, it is from, like I mentioned in this video, right, that they really want it to be Vogue, right? Because this game is basically last year's best game. So of course, they have spent so much time and pushing this game to be Vogue. But what is actually Vogue in this game? Except that, again, everyone can F everyone. Because... And I mean it, think about this thing, and I mean it. I want you guys, leave a comment below, absolutely, if you have something. Because I've been thinking about it for like a year, right? What is actually, so to speak, Vogue in this game, except the whole sex stuff? Like, what is it? Because the storyline certainly isn't progressive, right? The storyline is like, oh, we were kidnapped by these mind flayers, and then we get stranded, and we have this thing in our brain, they're gonna kill us, so we have to, like, kill them or something, you know what I mean? And then we blew up like a tower maybe or something. We find like his brain flies away, and then we go to a city and we kill some demons or whatever, go to submarine or something. You know what I mean? Like, nothing is really like, what is progressive about that or whatever, right? What honestly, I mean it genuinely, like, what is, like, nothing in the game whatsoever otherwise is that. I mean, I guess you could argue that in the game you can play as like a drow ranger, or you can have a gnome party member, you can have a little bard tiefling or something, and you can combine different races to fight with each other and so on. But again, that's kind of what I mentioned earlier with Metamorphosis. That's just like a fantasy game, right? In a fantasy game, you tend to have, one of each race kind of thing, right? If, for example, I don't know, FF9, Freya is like a rat woman, right? She's like a tall rat, like a 3-meter tall rat thing. And then the Queen is a trans character, actually, FF9. You have this like main character, one of the main characters has 2 genders. She's some kind of like, what is she? She's like a frog or something, yeah. The thing, no one knows. Queen is some kind of weird thing. She's some kind of, some alien thing that has basically both genders, yeah, hermaphrodite character. But I think she's basically like a frog, something like that. And of course, some reptilians like frogs can change gender and so on, so that makes sense, right? But anyway, my point, that's like, not, yeah, but what is this game about? But Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have anything of that. And there's no character that I can remember in the game that is talking about like, oh, I'm so happy that I changed gender or something, or like, oh, race stuff or something. I mean, again, of course, you have different issues with like vampires, and you pick up a vampire and you're kind of helpful for him, I guess, and you like I'm being genuine here. I guess the closest thing you would have to a progressive storyline is that you have a vampire party member and you kind of accept him even though he's like a vampire, so you let him be in your party, or you kill him like I did because I was paladin. But I staked him as a paladin. I was like, god damn you, vampire, yeah. And if anything, how does that make the game Vogue then, right? Because for example, in my paladin playthrough, I've beaten the game like 3.5. I also tried one of those quick ends, but whatever. I've beaten the game like 3 times, like full plays, and then some quicker stuff. And in my paladin playthrough, right, I just staked him because he's a vampire, right? Goddamn vampires, you know what I mean? How is that evoked, so to speak, right? I was playing a paladin, so I want to follow, the RP of like, I'm a hardcore paladin lady, and I will, exterminate everyone that is like dark and vampire or evil and so on, right? I don't care, you know what I mean? I was playing the RP thing, so I refused to have vampires in my partner. I felt that was RP correct, but again, isn't that like Antiwoke then, right? Did I refuse to listen to his plea or whatever? Obviously, that is why I think the game is great, right? Because you can actually kill your party members. You don't need them. You can obviously get, you can play the game by yourself, and you can also, of course, get what's called hirelings, right? Yeah, like 100 gold hirelings, yeah, and so on. So you don't need to have like a rogue or a whatever, and you can also, of course, get Aldrich like a bard and so on. One run I did, my third run, I only used hirelings because I wanted to use the older classes you don't get from the normal companions, for example, right? But whatever, I do what I did here on this game now. But my point is that isn't Vogue to me, right? That you can like kill the guy that I feel they should usually, the progressive thing would be to protect this guy, right? Because he's like a vulnerable, different race or whatever, I suppose, right? Isn't that kind of totalistic, killing him? Like I genuinely don't know how this can actually be evoked at all, except of course that you can F everyone all the time, right? But like I said, I don't actually, that to me genuinely has never come off as Vogue, because it's just constantly smashing, right? It's just constant smashing. I keep saying it, right? I know it's repetitive, but I think it's important to understand that is that what Vogue is then? And I guess to some extent, some people really do see Vogue or DEI or whatever you call it, again, PKs or whatnot, as kind of the pride thing, right? And in that sense, this feels very pride, that everyone just has sex with everyone, honestly. But that's kind of what I mean too. So every time that I see, right, these crazy people arguing that Baldur's Gate 3 is super Vogue, because you can sleep with everyone, everything, and you can be a man or a woman or a trans or a foot or whatever, and you can do everyone always, and everyone does you, and blah blah blah, so on. And that's amazing, right? Every time I see them say that, I'm just like, you're a pervert, right? Yeah, I'm just like, this is probably pervert, right? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right? And for me, to defend the Vogue here, right? To defend people, I don't think that it has to. You can be Vogue, I would say, right? You can want progressive. You can be pro, gay rights, lesbian rights, trans, and so on. without being like a deviant sexual deviant, right? You know, you can be that, right? But every time I see them talking about this stuff, Baldur's Gate 3, it's only about the sexual deviant stuff, right? Because, but that also because again they are dishonest, right? It's a dishonest tactic. That's what it's about, right? Because yeah, it's not actually truth, right? It's not actually truth because nothing in the actual storyline is woke or DEI or whatever. So it's only this dishonesty to try to like construct that the game is woke because it's the best, most popular game in 1 year, right? So they're going over time, right, to pretend that this game is super progressive, or whatever, even though it actually isn't. It's arguably the opposite, right? Like I said, you can actually kill the characters that they would probably see as being wrong, you know, to kill or whatever, right? So if anything, it isn't like that. And like I said earlier, I feel Larian, right, the developers, just basically said, we don't want to deal with this, like, you know, this or that, left or right. So let's just let every character just do it like that, right? And honestly, in a sense, this does actually is a good solution to some extent, because I mean, if you're like far left, right, you wanna see, you know, the gays, lesbian stuff and trans stuff, but if you're far right, you wanna see the porking, right? So everyone is happy. Everyone is happy. You know, I'm the only one not being happy here, which is too easy. No, but seriously, I want to have to, you know, actually seduce my party members. Yeah, I still think that. I said by saying that I think it's one of the game's weakest parts, right? Not that you can do everyone as anything, but it is so easy, yeah, for most characters. I said by saying that absolutely. The game does have weaknesses, yeah. I think it would be definitely a better game. I don't mind that I can, like, you know, create like a trans character and seduce any party member. I don't mind that. I just think that, you know, most party members are way too easy. Right? That's my problem with the game. So I finally said it too, honestly. I made a video about it last year kind of briefly, which I will link in the description, but it wasn't really about this thing, but I do think it is an issue in the game, absolutely, that some of the party members' behavior towards you, it is kind of too thirsty and kind of weird. And I think another problem with it is that some of them, I think Will is probably the best at this thing. He's just like too much, not just thirsty for you, which is also very true with him, but it's like he's too thirsty for you, and he's also just too willing to do whatever you want. You can basically like talk him into, you know, dying or whatever, right? I'm like, why would someone do that in this situation? Why would he like trust you so blindly? So I do think that most of the party members are way too in love with the main character / you know, trusting the main character way too much for no reason, and also willing to like die for the main character or whatever, right? For maybe for some reason, but you have a point, right? And then you have some other ones that are way harder to seduce, right? And it takes like 10 hours longer, and it just feels kind of weird where it's like one special. I'm not spoiled here for some reason, even the game is like a year old now, but one of sport members, she's very hard to finally get because it's a locked storyline with her, right? You have to change your hair color and so whatever, yeah, that's spoiler. But basically it's like really, really challenging to get her in the bed, basically. And then the other characters, like, you talk to them like twice and then they will sleep with you immediately. Yeah, Mintara is like, you talk to her once, basically. Yeah, Mintara is like, you basically have to just join her. Yeah, Mintara is like, the only thing you have to do with her is, it's the beginning of the game, you can pick sides, you know, evil or good, whatever. And Mintara, basically, you pick evil and she will automatically sleep with you afterwards, yeah. like it's nothing to do otherwise. It's just like, yes or no, yes, and then you get her as a woman, as your waifu as well. Bonus romance, yeah, it's like, it's way too easy. To some extent, though, I think Mintara is the coolest companion, and she's a very like strong, independent, aggressive woman. So at least I can somewhat kind of like that she does it because she is kind of serious. I'm super into this now. I have been thinking about this too long, guys. Okay, I've been spending a year thinking about Baldur's Gate 3 sex scenes. Yeah, way too long now. I've seen them all over and over again. You know, analyzing them all for this one video. No, but all jokes aside, right? I haven't even seen most of them, honestly. I'm a one-woman guy, you know, like, I like this woman here, I'm gonna, you know. Actually, yeah, but what I mean, I actually don't like it, right, when they're too thirsty. So in my playthrough, I try to only be with one character that I feel makes sense, and I try to adjust that, right, based on, like, my, not my gender, I guess, then, but rather more, like, my beliefs, right? If I'm playing a paladin, like I said, I'm not gonna be with the vampire guy, he's a vampire, yeah, so I'm trying to kind of like adjust. So obviously then in my paladin playthrough, I'm gonna try to marry the priest lady, right? Because she's a priestess. It makes sense, like that's probably what I'm going for. You know what I mean? So that's how I play the games. I try to RP my characters, and I try to, like fit into what the kind of the moment what I'm trying to play as. It makes sense. I think it makes sense, right? Yeah, like and then I don't, I try to be like faithful for my character. Except if I'm playing an evil character, then you smash them all. You know what I mean? But that's kind of what I mean, right? Yeah. But if you are playing like an evil bastard, like, oh yeah, I'm evil. Now I'm gonna do everyone. Yeah, I will cheat everyone. Yeah, you know what I mean. So it depends on that. On that sense, right? But I know I'm very much deep here in the threshold of nerding out over Baldur's Gate 3, but I still think that this is relevant for the video, guys. I hope you guys agree with me, because this is exactly what I'm saying, right? How is this game woke? Because it isn't really a vote. You can like cheat on your spouse and this thing with that. I mean, no, like the people like this game because it's so open. Do whatever you want, right? You can kill your teammates. You can do this thing. You can just pick them up. You can miss your party members. You can do a bunch of different weird stuff. You can not really cheat in the game, so to speak, because the game allows you to do it. But you can beat so many bosses, right, by doing weird stuff. You can do the oval jump thing. You can beat barrels. You can head out. You can before a boss battle, you can pour a bunch of alcohol on the floor and turn it on fire and burn down the building, basically. That's the reason people like this game, because you can do so much weird stuff with the game. So I played it only on the hardest, right, on tactics, whatever it's called. But it's so many boss fights or general fights, especially early levels, where you just do so much weird stuff, and that gives you the win, right? And that's why people love the game so much, because you have all these weird options. And then when it comes to all your romance options, it's the same thing, right? That you could do anyone as everything and so on. And it's just the freedom this game allows you is what makes that sad, but doesn't make it like necessarily politically aligned, something like that. If anything, it's not left leaning then, because the further you go left, right, the more authoritarian it comes. So, like I said earlier, this game is, if anything, actually see this game is Antiwoke, right? Because some of the stuff you can do in this game wouldn't be allowed if it actually was made by a woke developer, right? Because they would actually not allow some of the freedom options you have would be seen as problematic, right? So they wouldn't actually allow that. So I actually see this game as Antiwoke, if anything. And I know that might sound really weird to hear that, because Baldur's Gate 3 is like portrayed as super woke, right? But I really do see this game as anti-woke, which is kind of funny, right? So I think about it in a more deeper level. I think that's truth, right? Actually, yeah. Yes, you can smash everyone in every angle I said earlier, but that's it, right? The rest of it, you can actually kill these people and so on, which is anti-woke, so... But anyway, guys, that's the long video. I wanted to end it with Baldur's Gate 3, because this has been the game that I have seen the most, right, over these roughly a little more than 1 year. Game was released in August, right, last year, so it's like 14 months. And this is the game that I have seen being portrayed, as I mentioned, right, or over and over again. The latest game, Metamorphosis, right, this is the game currently then being portrayed as super woke. Sonic, I brought up, is also portrayed currently as that. But Sonic, like I said, is really weird. I think Sonic is probably the weirdest battle these people try to take, because Sonic, like I said earlier, is nerfed, censored, so to speak, because they are tired of all the weird hand stuff with Sonic, like really is. So that's a big part of it. The Amy one, as I mentioned, is very, very much of that. They completely rewrote Amy's thirst issue already like 50 years ago. So in that game's, of course, original version was released before they changed that. But in all the stuff after that, the comic books and the gaming and so on, and the animes, whatever, after 2010 or something like that, they have changed Amy's personality completely. So if you're gonna complain about Amy in Sonic, right, in the latest Sonic game, you should actually complain about her as a whole, right? Because again, she's a new older character for many years now. So it's more about that. So if anything, like I said, is that censorship. That is kind of tricky, because I mean they have basically decided, like I said, to rewrite Amy's whole character completely for other games and so on, right? So this remake is more like aligned with what they want her to be as, and I think that honestly, again, please leave a comment below. Is it censorship with Amy? Because it's a tricky question actually, because I mean you could argue it's censorship from the beginning, right? When they changed her personality like 15 years ago. That's probably more accurate. But currently, it's more like for the last 15 years then, right? Amy hasn't had the personality that she had in the 2006 game. And now with the remaking that game, so they're rewriting her to be more like her, her last 15 years. Honestly, I think it kind of makes sense. I don't want to defend the censorship, but it's really censorship because it's more like, again, you should complain about it as a whole concept then, right? But if you look at it as a single-alone game, yes, it is a remake that was written differently, but as the whole company has changed that since then, this makes she's more aligned now with all her other interactions with her, basically, right? So otherwise, the older Amy would actually feel weird to any fan that has played the games for the last 10 years. To old people, it feels probably weird because they're used to the old Amy. But like I said, those people should complain about the older games too then. And that's also why I do think that the complaint about Sonic that Amy is changed in this game is also to me a little bit dishonest from the right side, right? Not from the other side of the angle, because they should be complaining about, again, Amy as a whole then, not this game particularly. So that to me also feels a little bit like a fake uproaring, right? Like a fake anger for some people, fake fans. Like I said, like I was sitting and saying that I have known about her personality change for many years, right? So if you are an actual Sonic fan, you would actually already be used to that. If that makes any sense. Which again might support that it's bad or whatever, but like I said, it's not in this game in particular. So it's a tricky question there, I think. But yeah, hope that kind of breaks down some of the issues, right? I see these games and they're pretending to be Evoke, but they are actually Evoke. Boss System Mansion, of course, the biggest symbol of it, but I'm sure we're gonna see the exact same thing, next year, right? Maybe some other game released this year, but there aren't that many more games being released this year, I think, that will be these massive hitters. But for example, right, it wouldn't surprise me if next year Monster Hunter's going to be out, right? Probably going to be one of the best games next year. It was really hype in end of February or beginning of March last year. But anyway, I mean, it's pretty, not that far away from now, right? That game is probably said as, oh, this game is Vogue because you can play as a female main character or something. I don't know, I haven't checked it out, but I assume that in Monster Hunter you can play as your customized character, right? I think so, at least. Correct me if I'm wrong here. You can, at least in other games, some of them, so I assume you can play as a female badass warrior lady if you want to, right? And does that make the game Vogue? No, not all. But I tell you, people are gonna say that it's Vogue because you can play as a muscular female character. And also there was this one of your companions, one of your supportive characters is like an old veteran knight lady or something like that, or whatever she is, but some kind of like badass older woman. And she doesn't look, some people, she doesn't look attractive enough. Oh, it's Vogue. But I was like, no, I think she's hot, man. Maybe I should like the MILFs, but I was like, no, she's just hot, man. She's like an old, veteran, badass warrior lady. It's kind of like the grandma in Downtown. I was like, yeah, hot. Yeah, I was like, yeah, gilf. I was like, hot. So maybe it's just me, but I was like, no, she's like a badass warrior lady. What are you talking about? She's cool. But stuff like that, right? People are gonna pretend that, for example, then, she's a Vogue character because she's a strong female lady or something. Even though, for example, they're talking about FF games here, right? Basically, every role-playing game ever has a bunch of female warriors, right? Except FF15 because it's like a boy band road trip. But in all the other games, right? And you always have like some Hulkenberg then, right? In Metamorphosis, she's the red top elf lady. Yeah, she's a badass warrior lady. Like, yeah, of course, because that's how you do it, right? In this game here, you have a bunch of female characters you can fight, right? Or it can be Magis if you want to, but yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't know, but I hope that we see less of these things, because I guess I want to end with this thing. The big issue, or rather, a general big issue with these loons, right, is that they don't live in reality. I say that as diplomatically as I can, right? But seriously, they don't live in reality, right? They always try to alter what is actually reality or not, right? Which is a massive issue, trying to ever debate or discuss stuff with some of these people, right? And that's why I kind of call them crazy loons, because they really refuse to live in reality, right? And I really mean it objectively, that they don't actually live in reality. They will try to change stuff, right? We see it, I guess, the most now then with that, wars, right? For example, how they will have this one war, right, in Europe between two countries, perhaps, and another war going on in the Middle East, right? And they will try to compare those two and pretend they're exactly the same, whatever, right? Where the concepts are very, very different. And anyone actually living in reality will do that, right? But these people are so focused on, the agenda, the goal, or whatever, right? So they will lie, again, being dishonest, right? Is a very common tactic for them, right? And they will refuse to actually accept, what is actually reality, right? And this whole concept here of lying about what games actually evoke or not, right, is again it's a reality dishonest attack, right, on your senses, because it's instead of having to debate them, right, or what is the issue, for example, of forced inclusion in a game like Concord, right, they will pretend that, but the game isn't actually evoked, or this game you like is actually evoked, or whatever, yeah. So they will try to argue something that isn't true, and they will try to, of course, deflect the actual debate, right, into this other meta stuff and so on. So it's really annoying. It's really annoying, and it's, of course, a strategy to try to just inflate the numbers. Lastly, as a side on this part, also before I forget here, I was thinking about it before, and I think it's interesting to separate games like Black Myth for Kong, right? They underplay that, you know what I mean? They will say that, Black Myth for Kong is, it sold 10 million copies in one day, but who cares? Those are Chinese people. I mean, yeah, which is so silly. They will underplay that, but if you say the same thing about black people, you obviously will cancel it right there. But they will underplay that, be like, this game is Stellar Blade, this game made by Koreans. That was a talent, you know what I mean? Yeah, they will underplay those games so heavily, right? On the numbers and the figures doesn't have any value because they're based on China and Korea and so on. In Black Myth they will say stuff it's based on a famous Journey to the West, right? So of course everyone's gonna buy that. The game actually is terrible, but it's based on famous Chinese mythology, so that just sells games, which of course is incredibly dishonest because if I made a really bad game based on Wukong, would I sell 10 million copies in one day then? Of course I wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? But I think it's a funny thing too to not forget here, is that, like I said, they will underplay the data and figures and contextual value, right, of games they don't like. And of course they will inflate it all the way, right? Yeah, and they say that this game that isn't woke is actually woke now, and it's selling so much, yeah. Or Metamorphosis, this game that isn't woke, but I pretend it's woke now, and also it's completely unheard of. What is this? Persona games. No one ever bought those games, so it sold 1 million copies in one day out of nowhere. My God, you know what I mean? Then instead of it underplay, right, how famous Persona is, right? The Persona franchise and Atlas Sega, yeah, they would underplay that and pretend they never heard about Sega before. Sonic? Sega? So I think we find that way too, right? It's another dishonest tactic to have to try to pivot the elements there, right? It's just ridiculous. But I think it comes from, like I mentioned there, it comes from the core issue, right, that they have, that they will always try to change what is called reality, right? To rather have whatever the discussion they want to have, right? Both on the notion of what is woke or not, or DI or whatever, what they mean as definition or whatever, and also, of course, the actual numbers, adding, context that doesn't actually matter, or adding context that is a lie, right? So it's a lie sometimes. For example, when they lied about that fake translation, right, of the director of Black Myth Kong, yeah, just lied about it, complete lies, right? So it's also a strategy to do it, right? But yeah, I hope you guys pick up some ideas. This video is honestly longer than I expected to be, but now when I got into it, I really wanted to talk about the different points, right, about these games. And I think especially, as I mentioned here, Basket 3 has bothered me for a whole year, because no, this game isn't woke. Why is it woke? Because you can sleep with everyone. That's not what woke is it? I mean, no, I don't think so. There's a weird definition of woke is, right? And like I said earlier, I mean, we all know that the real definition is basically forced inclusion, right? Yeah, that's the real definition of it. And also, like I said, FF7, because FF7 is no, that game is yeah, this time this guy is destroying the planet because of their green energy life force, but every FF game, the guys are destroying the planet, so it's like, I guess they're all woke then, both, right? Yeah, I was like, no, it's always been a story like that. Anyway, guys, hope you subscribe, like button, and have a great day.